Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you're ready to take on your next paying clients, I have good news. My free 4 Basics of Client Attraction and How to Stand Out class is live at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction. In the class, you're going to learn the top 2 traits I recommend for most coaches and entrepreneurs if they really want to turn this into a career. You're going to learn how you can build demand for your services and stop getting crickets on your posts. You're going to learn the sales roadmap I used to improve my sales conversion rate and help my clients do the same. And you're going to learn so much more. So go to haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get your copy of the class today. How to get more clients. But Julie is a powerhouse. I actually came across her through a summit I believe we were both a part of and some mutual friends in the space. And Julie, just share a little bit about what the heck you do. And I know you're in a lot of virtual events, so we'll talk more about how others can do that too. But let's just get started from there.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me today. This is such and I think we've been trying to plan this for a while. So this is I feel like I haven't talked to you in a long time, but it probably hasn't been that long, or maybe it has been. Anyway. So my name is Julie C. Butler, and I am now a virtual summit coach. So I kind of I had a business where I was more helping people build and grow the business, but I'm so in love with hosting virtual summits and also being a participant in virtual summits and bundles. And I'm like, why do I keep myself from doing this? Right. Like those voices in our heads, right, that keep us from maybe moving in a path that we are more feeling aligned with. And finally I said, you know what? No more. I'm not waiting. I'm gonna go. The intuition and everything is pushing me this way. So I'm going with it. So here I am. So I help, I like to say, coaches on the other side of 40 host their first virtual summit. And I'm just so passionate about it. So I'm really excited about this. So that's me in a nutshell.
I love that. So tell me a little bit about, what does a virtual event entail? Because I know that could mean probably a lot of different things. So tell us more about that.
So a virtual event, essentially, by any means, we see a lot of them happening, and a lot of them are on, a lot of them have 30, 40 speakers, but they don't have to be that big, right? So you can have some, my first event was 40 speakers, and that is a lot. I'm not going to lie, hosting a virtual event is a lot of work. However, it's so rewarding in so many different ways. But you could host a summit that had 12 people. So basically, and there's different ways of doing it too. You can do a live event, right? That's still a virtual summit. You could pre-record interviews with the guests and then, just have them go live, or have them go, live during the summit, or you just ask them to provide you with a training, a 20 to 30 minute training on the topic that you've chosen together to be a part of your summit. So basically, and they can run between anywhere from, I've seen 2 to 4, sometimes 5 days. The norm seems to be 3 days, sometimes 4, depending on how many speakers you have. And it's just so much fun. You get the connections, and as a speaker on a summit, you get also the visibility, and you get to grow you get to build your authority as well, and your expertise, right? So that's essentially what it is. It's an online event that you plan and prepare, and then you host it on the days that you've chosen, on the topic the theme that you've chosen. So yeah, and it's a lot of fun. for me, it's so much fun. And you know, you don't have to be an extrovert to do this. Like I know some introverts that are so successful at hosting summits. So it's one of those things. But then, you know, depending on who you are as a person, you can choose to maybe opt for, you know, the pre-recorded trainings that speakers send to you, or if you're an extrovert and you like having that connection with your speakers and all that stuff, you can do it pre-recorded. Like there's so many different ways of doing it. And if like, honestly, like you can pretty much like do anything you want with this, right? Like if you want to think outside the box and, you know, like co-host and have a co-host and host a live 2-3 day event, like there's so many ways we can go with this. It's like anything in business.
Amazing. Yes. And I can say from the standpoint of being a guest or a speaker at these events, I've done a little bit of everything where they say, oh, record a 20-minute presentation, or, oh, we're going to do an interview. Or even now, the latest thing I'm seeing is micro audio summits where it's like they record audio and there's no video and you can listen on the go. And maybe it's uploaded to like a podcast channel or something like that. So there's a lot of fun ways that you can do it, like you said. And what would be someone's reasons for wanting to host their own summit versus maybe being a speaker or a guest?
Okay, so they're both so beneficial. And if you're in a place where you're like, there's no way I can host a summit right now, like my life is way too busy, I encourage every single one of you, if you're listening to this, you need to be a participant in a summit. And don't worry about your list size or your social media size, because sometimes hosts, yes, sometimes we take that into account. However, if you have an email list of like 150 people, but like 75% of them are engaged, right? Like make sure that when you're applying to a summit, if, you know, make sure to include the engagement, because that also can trump someone who has an email list of 5,000, but like 20% engagement, right? So don't be afraid to apply to be a speaker at summits if you think you have a small list, or if you think you have a small social media following, right? Because I've accepted speakers on my own summit that had like small email lists and maybe a bit of a bigger social media following or whatever, but it really truly doesn't matter. And sometimes they will have better results in you know, bringing people to the summit than some of the people with those big lists, right? So don't hold back from applying to be a speaker at a summit. I really, really encourage you to do that. But being a speaker at summits, and be careful not to over schedule yourself on summits, because that can take over your business really fast. Been there, done that. So, you know, make sure that you, right? Make sure that you allow yourself to like say, okay, I'm going to be a speaker at one summit per quarter, because bottom line, your business matters first, right? Like you take care of your business, and then participating in summits is like, it's one of those things. It's like being a guest on a podcast or stuff like that, right? So you want to be conscious of that. But by being a speaker on a summit, you grow your authority. Like you just, not your authority, sorry. Yes, but visibility first, right? So the more you show up, the more you show your face on summits or even in bundles, but summits, I say more particularly because you're talking, right? Like people get to know your personality. People get to know like whatever you're training on. People get to know your style. People get to know what it is that you do. So when you do a training on a summit, make sure that it's specific to your business and how you want those people to come in through to you, and they know what you do, right? Because I mean, after all, at the end of the day, this is a business, right? Like, so you want to participate in summits that have the same audience you do, right? So that's also very important. But also you grow your authority, you build your authority. So now people are like, oh, she's the go-to for this, or she's the go-to for XYZ, right? So the more you show your face, the more people recognize you, you become a recognizable brand. So it's also brand awareness. And then of course, there's the whole, you get practice at speaking on stage, right? Like you just get better and better every time you do another training, every time you participate in a, you know, live event or your pre-recorded summit, or even podcasting, like even being a guest on podcasts, which I highly encourage, is also super beneficial. And then it yields to And this is not an overnight thing, right? Like you have to build that trust with the people, the new people who are coming into your world, but it equals money at the end of the day, because then those people are going to turn around and buy your stuff, right? So that's what I say about being a participant. And sometimes, Hailey, sometimes the results from being a speaker on a summit are not instant. Like what I mean, like I've participated in summits where I got like 5 signups to my freebie, but it's not a failure because you showed up. People might start recognizing you more now. Like they still saw you, right? Like just because they didn't sign up to your freebie doesn't mean that they don't know who you are. So that sometimes can be like, oh, I participated in that summit. I got like 5 signups to my freebie. But truly, I think that it all combined together, it's like a whole package deal, right? Like in the end, it's every little bit, right? The compound effect.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I love that. So totally agree. And I've had the same situations where like I'll get some email subscribers and then later on someone becomes a client or someone refers me to another summit or things like that. So what about hosting your own though? So yes, we're going to be guests. We're going to get some practice. We're going to hone our speaking skills. But then why would somebody say, you know what? Now is the time. I'm ready to do my own.
Yeah. So many things. Like the first time I hosted a summit, first of all, I didn't do it by myself. I hired a coach to help me host my first summit because it's a big job, right? So you need guidance. Like you need some sort of guidance, unless you're like super smart and you're like a super planner and you just know all the things you need to do. It's a big job. Like it's a big project. So first of all, give yourself enough time. I allow myself to plan 6 months in advance. So if I'm hosting a summit, I'd give myself 6 months because 1, I pre-record trainings with my guests. And then 2, I like to go big or go home. So I've got like the 40 speaker lineup and you want time to like prepare those graphics, prepare the swipe copy and all that good stuff. Right. But also we're still running a business while we're hosting a summit, right? And you may have a virtual assistant helping you with some of these tasks, but you still have to run your business, right? But hosting a summit, first of all, is so much fun for me anyways. Like I loved it. And you might be like, I hosted a summit and I hated it. And that's okay because we're all different. And we don't all like the same stuff, right? So some people like this is like when I hosted my summit, I'm like, oh my God, like I was born to do this. So I'm like, I love this so much. But first, connection. You get connection with all of the speakers because you communicate back and forth. And honestly, like pre-recording their trainings with them, you build that connection to the next level. Like that's what I love so much about hosting my own summit. But if you're like, more of a time restraint, or maybe you're an introvert and you're not there yet, it's okay to also ask your speakers to submit the trainings. So connection, number 1. Number 2, visibility. Like after hosting my first summit, I was getting like weekly emails from people asking me to be a part of their summits and bundles and podcasts. Like you start being known and people want you on their platforms. So like how amazing is that, right? And then number 3, you're growing like your brand awareness, right? Like that expertise you're growing, but also money. Right? Like, so when you're hosting a summit, usually people can get a ticket for free, but they can upgrade usually anywhere from $50 to, I've seen $150, but mine was $97 for the VIP pass. If you've participated in a summit, or if you've attended a summit, like if you've gotten a ticket, that you get redirected to that beautiful VIP page that upsells you the bundle with the lifetime access to recordings or a year or whatever it is. And then you get a bundle of all of these amazing offers from these speakers. So you make money from that. And also, but you're not making money just during the summit, because after 2 years of hosting my own summit, 42% of the sales in my business come as a result of hosting my summit. Now I've hosted 3 now, and I'm a tracker nerd. So I track how everybody comes into my business. It's all tagged in my email. So I know exactly when someone buys something from me, I know where they came from usually. And 42%, I did the math a few weeks ago and I was blown away by the results. So in over 2 years, 42% of those sales have come from a result of those people coming into my world because of my summit. That's crazy.
That's awesome.
And then also, right? And also you grow your email list. Like it can be exponential. Like my first summit, 1,900 people signed up to attend my summit. I think I looked, and at first I was like, but that was like 1,500 new people on my email list.
Yeah.
1,500 new people in the span of like 3 weeks.
Nice.
You can't do that organically, even if you tried. Like, I mean, I'm speaking for the majority of us, right? Like, I'm not a master organic growth email list person. So those numbers are staggering. Like, those numbers are like incredible. And the thing is that, Hailey, I think that all the problems in our business can be solved by being in front of new people. Like more people, right? It's a numbers game. You need to be in front of more people. You want more people to know about you and more people to know about what you do. And of course, they come into our world and we nurture them and we do the thing, which that could be another training on its own. But yeah, like the benefits are incredible. And to be honest, I built connections and doors opened up for me after the fact that I didn't even know my business was going to change in that way, in the way that it did. It was just so amazing all around. And even 2 years later, I'm like, that first summit changed my business forever.
I love that. That's awesome. Yes, it is a great list builder and a great organic one that's, free to be a part of summits, free to host your own summit, except for the tools you'll probably have to potentially get, like a way to pay affiliates through, Thrivecart or something like that. But what I want to ask you now, because, we're freezing. Are you still there?
I can hear you.
Okay.
It was just you that was frozen.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm going to stop my video and see if that helps.
Okay,
we'll see.
I can hear you.
Okay, so my question for you is, how do we find summits and bundles and things like that to be a part of if we're newer to that journey and we've never, that kind of thing?
Yes, absolutely. So there's some amazing Facebook groups out there. And Hailey, I don't think we've talked about a freebie for this call/interview, but I do have, so I can give you the link and you can include it in the show notes. Yeah, because I have a list of like 5 or 6 or maybe even 7 of the Facebook groups that are good for that. So you can go in there and you can, like, people are looking for speakers all the time to be part of their summits or their bundle. So those are really good. But be like super like picky about what you participate in, because again, this is a business. We are growing and building a business, right? Like you don't want to participate in something and that like the person who's hosting, their audience has nothing to do with your audience, right? And so what good is that? Like it just means you're going to fill your list with people who don't want what you are offering, right? So be super picky. And again, don't hold yourself back from applying, but you can skim through and look at all of the people who are pitching their summit or their bundle, and you can pick and choose. And everybody's doing summits now, so there's so many to pick from, so many to choose from. And then I think with time and getting to know like different entrepreneurs, different people out there, you'll get to know like, okay, like this is the summit to be in, or this is the bundle to be in, but also follow your intuition, like follow your gut. Like over the last week, I was skimming through Facebook and I saw that, not related to summits, but I saw 2 people pitching their podcast. They were looking for guests to be speaker on their podcast. And my intuition right away said, yeah, you need to put your name on this one. Yeah, you need to put your name on this one. And I'm like, okay. So on Facebook, I commented, I'm interested. And so twice I did that. And then, the the host sent me a Facebook message, and I replied back with my voice instead of sending a generic message, right? And I was like, hey there, how's it going? You know, I'm so happy to apply. And if it feels aligned, this is what I can speak about. And, you know, you kind of can, you know, just like, I think that builds connection to that another level. And so right away, both people were like, oh my God, yes, like I want you as a speaker on my summit or on my podcast. So, you know, don't be afraid to do that too. If someone's looking for someone, I'm like, ooh, this is so good. I'm so interested in this. We still have to fill out the form to be a speaker on their either podcast or summit, right? Because that's just the logistics of, you know, following the not the strategy, but just following so they have the details in their database. Yeah, like just, you know, just sending them a DM quickly, and that way they get to know you and your personality a bit more, right? So
yeah, definitely. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah,
great.
I know.
Sorry for the yeah, no worries. So one of the things too that you could do is if you have people in your niche who, you know, you see them posting about summits. Usually, if someone hosts a summit once, they host it again or they do it annually. And so you can also find just from people you follow when they're in summits. That's another option.
Yes.
So Julie, this has been action-packed and very informative, and I love it. But I'm worried about the video recording, so I'm going to have you share where people can find you so that we don't lose this precious recording.
Yes, and it's really easy, juliecbutler.com. I should have put that as my name, juliecbutler.com. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook. And on Instagram, it's Julie C. Butler XO. And Facebook, if you just search Julie. And of course, my links are on my website. But that's probably the easiest way to find me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your genius with us. And I'll talk to you soon.
You're so welcome. Thanks.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast, and if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.